I am here to do something that is maybe a unicorn in the modern age, something so incredibly, unbelievably rare you might not even believe that what you're witnessing is real. I'm here to tell you I changed my mind. I think I was wrong about something that I said recently, and I want to correct it. Now, you might have watched the video. It's titled "Uh-oh." That had to do with the fact that Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, recently came out and said that European matches would be played abroad, or that Premier League matches in the league would be played abroad. So the point of the first video I made was basically to bring that up and talk about the fact that it was inevitable that that was going to happen based off the financial incentives and the financial competition that's going on between the big leagues, and how that it would be a prudent financial move for them to do it. So I do feel like it is inevitable that they are going to do it, or at least that they are going to try to do it. But what I also said was that I thought that it wasn't necessarily that bad of a thing. Not from the I'm an American and I want to be able to go watch these games, but from experience with NFL or MLB or whatever, and watching my team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go play one game in Germany. I actually quite enjoyed that, and if it helps the league make more money, or the team be able to get a bigger international footprint or whatever, then I was kind of all for it. But for whatever reason, after I posted that video, I happened to just read the entire comment section. Sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I post a video and then I actually maybe even go outside. That'll last about 5 minutes until I get afraid of the sun, and then I gotta run back inside and make sure that I dodge that. But I read the comment section. I figured this was going to be a lively one. I figured it was going to be an interesting debate. I knew that my original opinion was probably going to at least spark some conversation. Right. And I really enjoyed reading. The whole point of this channel in the first place is for me to be somebody I don't really take this channel too seriously, if you didn't notice, right? To me to just be somebody sitting here talking about sports with you, like we're sitting at lunch together talking about soccer, football, whatever. And the comment section was great. And I was almost a little disappointed in myself. So I feel like there were some angles that I didn't think about while I was talking about it. Now, granted, the first video was one of those where I kind of just wander through my own thoughts and try and draw a conclusion by the end of it, right? I didn't start the camera, the video, with a clear idea of what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. Not that on this channel I ever really do, but usually if I have an opinion on something, I will have that opinion before I start recording the video, right? That way, it wasn't necessarily one of those. But one of the things I will say right off the top that has me change my mind on this was the logistics. I don't know why. Maybe I'd inhaled a little too much helium yesterday, but I did not consider the logistics at all. That is a huge fundamental difference between playing an NFL game, which happens once a week. There's only 18 of them. Playing that in Europe, or playing an MLB series in Europe or Brazil or wherever they're playing them. The difference being these professional footballers, right? There's something I've talked about on this channel a lot, and I do think fixture congestion and all of the idiocy that contributes to it is one of the biggest problems and biggest threats for soccer, going around right now. And there's just no real reasonable way to play a game in Los Angeles and then 3-4 days later have to play Azerbaijani team in the conference league, or whatever crazy schedule you've got going on. If you've got a midweek match, which you can't really figure out too far ahead of time, and you've got to go play a game in the United States or whatever, it's impossible. It's a non-starter. Even if they'll try to do it, it is endangering the players. It is a brutal scheduling turn that Jurgen Klopp would probably blow a gasket if they tried to make him do it. But again, remember what I said at the beginning of this video. They're definitely going to try. Given the control of the league and the clubs that the owners have in the Premier League, that the administrators have in La Liga, they're going to try to do this, right? They've been talking about it for years. We know how this stuff works. Eventually, they're going to try and do it in the most palatable possible way. I cannot impress that upon you enough. They are going to try to do it, and it probably will happen, even if it's just for a brief time. But I don't think it's a good idea, and not just because of the logistical concerns, right? There were a bunch of other things that were brought up in the comments section. There was the side points where it's like, well, me being American, the connection with the club isn't the same. I don't necessarily think that's true. It just because teams in the United States are franchises and teams in Europe are clubs doesn't mean that you can't form the same sort of ritualistic connection with the club. Like I wasn't going to every Tampa Bay Buccaneers home game with my dad when I was a kid, because I was, like that was something that was a part of my life. And I mean, what's the sports are sports. If you're a sports fan, you're a sports fan, right? The whole point of being a sports fan is the fact that you're going to be miserable and that team's going to ruin your mood and you're just going to get kicked in the nuts repeatedly for like 20 years on the off chance that you get that one brief moment of elation because you actually won something. Unless, of course, you're Tottenham, that'll never happen. But then you can go cry into the England fandom where it will also never happen. And you can just see it's a pretty vicious cycle here. But I think the experience of all sports fans that really emotionally invested in their sports team is allowing that sports team to just, become an uncomfortably large part of their life. That doesn't change no matter, as somebody that has had the opportunity to travel all over the world, that's something that doesn't change anywhere all over the world. If you grow up rooting for a sports team and that is your team, then that's just the way that it works. But there's another part of that. And then that's something that a lot of people brought up that I probably should have dug into a lot more the first time I was talking about this, which is the difference in the structure of the actual institution between a franchise and a club. Not necessarily in the rabidness of the fandom or the importance of the team to the culture. I mean, like go to Green Bay, Wisconsin and tell me the Green Bay Packers aren't important to the culture of, Wisconsin with the cheeseheads and everything. But the difference between a franchise and a club is that a franchise is just a lot easier to move, to move that team around a lot more. There's a lot less actual infrastructure tethering it to that one spot. Now, when you're talking about a club, this is something that actually drew me to football or soccer originally. The idea of a club being that it was bigger than just this one team, right? In the United States, it is just this one team, right? But a club is all of these other teams, and you're training with the youth academies and that greater infrastructure connection to the community, basically, than you have with franchises, which are essentially like a business. It's like a McDonald's that opened down the street. It just happens to be an NFL team. But even if you could somehow find a way to solve the logistical issues of being able to play these games abroad in the first place, the playing of the actual league matches in another country would just be really, really disruptive to the structure of a club, much more so than it would be disruptive to the structure of a franchise. There were some other points that people made in the comments section talking about, the idea is, with the NFL, for example, is to try and get other people to care about the sport, or with football or soccer, that's not the case. I would counter with playing games abroad in the United States, in India and China. The point would be to create more fans of the sport. I mean, that, just because the sport's the most popular sport in the world doesn't mean there aren't a ton of people that don't care about it. Speaking as somebody that lives in a country where there are a lot of people that don't care about football or soccer at all. So I don't think that point necessarily rings true. But I have changed my mind. I don't think that it would be a palatable or fun idea to play a couple of league matches abroad. I don't anymore. The logistics, the damage to the club structure would be too great. But there was also another group of people that were commenting on that video that were talking about how this would endanger the game, or that they would be losing control over the game, or you give them an inch and take a mile. And to those people, I have something else I'd like to add to this whole conversation we're having about games being played abroad. Because as I was emphasizing earlier, they're going to try to do this. It is going to happen. And if you are a fan of a Premier League club or any other club that is in a league in a similar system, you already don't have any control over what's happening in these situations. Bundesliga, obviously, with the 50+1 share, is the shining beacon, the shining example of how, in my opinion, club football should work basically anywhere in the world. That is just the way that it should work. It's not only a system that most of the time guarantees a good amount of financial health, but it's a system that allows the fans' voices to be heard, and it allows the game to remain unchanged by, financial interests. Which, look, the whole desperation to suck up every dime that's not nailed down is something that has ruined a lot of sports. Look at basically any sport from golf to Formula One, whatever you want to look at. The need to just vacuum up more money has ruined those sports. And if you are in a league that does not have a significant amount of fan ownership, you're going to have to fight. Not literally, but I mean in the way that they're doing, that they did in Germany, or in the way that they're doing against VAR in Scandinavia, even though I don't necessarily fully agree with that. Get your fish cakes and start throwing them on the field. You got to find a way to get all of the billionaires and to get all of the reprehensible regimes that own these clubs to actually listen to you. I don't necessarily know what that is, but the people that are suggesting that the actual dangerous moment for a league is going to be when a game is played abroad, I feel like they're overlooking the fact that that dangerous moment has kind of already come. That precipice that you're hanging over of not having a say, or the game being available to be corrupted, right? Because what we're looking at is a situation where the league and the owners of the clubs in the league are incentivized to try and suck up every dime that's not nailed down. And if you are a fan of a club that exists in that sort of league, you've got to find a way to get the focus back on the sport for the love of the sport, and the actual spirit of the game here. Because what we all want, sports fans anywhere in the world, football fans, soccer fans anywhere in the world, is for just for the Super Cups to not be in Saudi Arabia. If we're being honest, like that, obviously the list is longer than that in terms of being able to provide a game that is accessible for people to be able to watch, a game that is, based entirely on merit, right? I think that could all just be boiled down to, wanting a world where the Super Cups aren't played in Saudi Arabia because, a kingdom that was founded after World War I just happened to trip and land in its ass full of oil. So let the ending of this video be like an alarm bell. If you are in a league that is in one of those situations where the league and the owners in the league have no incentive to look after the game and be custodians of the game, their only incentive is money, then you're probably going to have to find a way to get them to care about being custodians of the game. Yeah, that. And also some random American just changed his mind. So that's fun.